What is good, you guys? Welcome back to the report. Welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the whole Markieff Morris situation, which just broke out this morning. A report from Barry Jackson about his future with the Miami Heat as far as this season is concerned. I was going to make a video about the trade deadline and the rumors that have been going on around the league, the Norman Powell trade, the James Harden to Philly situation, but you know, I got to talk about this, so I'm going to talk about this. This is going to be the Morris situation is going to be dedicated for this video, and maybe if I want to talk about some of the other trade rumors, I'll do that in a future video. So yeah, let's get right into it, man. So leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. So basically what this is an update from Barry Jackson, who, as we all know, is a very credible source from the Miami Herald. And quote for quote, what it says is that the Heat's specific medical concern for Morris is not clear, but the sources said that it was significant enough to make the Heat uneasy about clearing him to play, at least to this point, and significant enough to leave the team concerned about liability issues. Further, which has been stated by Barry Jackson, is that Markieff Morris wants to play because he feels fine, but the Heat still have serious medical concerns, was the words, leaving his status in the season very much in question. So this is tough. This is very, very tough. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Because if Markieff Morris cannot play, yeah, we've been pretty fine without him, but he just gives us another dynamic for that backup forward position next to Dedmon, because we don't really have size apart from Dedmon and Yurtseven, who are both centers, to play off the bench. So we don't really have that forward position, you know, without Morris. Caleb Martin and Strus have been playing those positions off the bench, but they're pretty undersized. None of them are, you know, big enough to guard true power forwards in the NBA. So this is tough. This is really, really tough, and we'll have to see what happens with the whole Morris situation. But there is a possibility, you know, we're talking about the trade deadline. There is a possibility that Markieff Morris might get traded. You know, we'll see what goes on with that. But if he cannot play this season, he's only on a one-year contract, he might get traded. You know, he might get traded for sure. Now, who he will get traded for and all that, we'll talk about that. We'll dissect, you know, some of these rumors that we've been hearing with the Heat, because I do want to package up another rumor or another report from Barry Jackson, who said that this might be a quiet trade deadline for the Miami Heat. He said this yesterday, so this was before the whole Markieff situation was released. But what he said was that the Heat might not be as active as they were in the past, but there might be one piece that has been moved, that will be moved from the Miami Heat, which is KZ Okpala. So if you move KZ Okpala, there is a world where you can package him with Markieff Morris. That gives you about 4.4 million, if I'm not mistaken, in combined salary, and you could move that on for one player. Now, who will that player be? It's very, very interesting to see. You know, there's a lot of power forward options around the league. I saw Marcus Morris like a tweet saying that he wants to come to Miami. I don't know how we're gonna pull off that deal, because Duncan Robinson's salary is probably the only way, because Marcus Morris just got extended this offseason. So I don't think that's gonna happen. He probably just wants to play with Markieff, but I don't think we're gonna trade for him. But another guy on that same team is Nicholas Batum. We could, you know, try to see if we can get Batum off the Clippers, but Batum is a very valuable asset for them. They're buying right now, as we just saw them getting Nicholas Batum, so they are not selling at the deadline. So there are a lot of forwards that the Heat can put on the roster that fits next to Bam and Dedmon, because, you know, all they have to do is stretch the floor, defend, and grab rebounds, and they're basically the ideal fit next to Bam and Dedmon. It's tough because Morris was kind of that guy who was supposed to be that way, because he really fit well. I liked how we used him in that mid-range area. He got a lot of mid-range jump shots. His three-point shot was not falling earlier in the season, but I thought he really, really helped the team. Gave the team a different dynamic, a different outlet to play through. And the only problem with this, the Okpala Morris trade scenario, is that they're very close to the tax. You know, the Heat are not, you know, paying the tax this year. Mickey Arison is not paying the tax this year, and they're very close to breaking it. And trading Okpala and Morris could free up a roster spot for Caleb Martin, which is cool, but you still have to trade him for a player in return. And I see a lot of options out there. Thaddeus Young, the name Thaddeus Young has been brought into play. I think that'll be a buyout, if anything. I don't think we're going to trade for Thaddeus Young. Paul Millsap, I would stay away from. He's been absolutely atrocious for the Nets. He's not been good whatsoever. Maybe if he comes to the Heat, he can be rejuvenated, but I just don't like the idea of Paul Millsap. He's very slow. His spacing is not really, ideal. I think he's a lot better as a post-up or an interior player. So he does not really space the floor well. Once in a while, Paul Millsap, or once upon a time, Paul Millsap was a really good player. He was an all-star, but right now, I don't know if he's the right guy. But he's another name. Ibaka from the Clippers. The Clippers have a couple of guys that could intrigue the Heat. Ibaka is one of those. But the problem with Ibaka is that he's not really a 4. He's a true center. He's a 7-footer. So you kind of have him, Dedmon, and Yurtseven, and I don't think any of them can really play the 4. So that is another dilemma. I would go after a guy in Indiana, and I saw this on Twitter. Shout out to Sam Quinn, because Sam Quinn actually gave me the inspiration for this idea, because he mentioned his name a while ago. Torrey Craig from Indiana, I think would be a really good fit, because you can match the salaries. The 4.4 mil. Indiana is looking to sell, or they're looking to make a trade during the deadline. I heard Karis LeVert. The Cavaliers are pursuing Karis LeVert with intent. Obviously, Miles Turner, they cannot trade anymore because he's currently injured. I mean, they can trade him, but no team really wants him when he's injured right now past the trade deadline. Sabonis has been rumored. They just extended Brogdon, and they have Duarte, and those are the only two pieces that I haven't really heard in trade rumors. Torrey Craig is the guy that they just signed this offseason. He's eligible to be traded now. I really like Torrey Craig, man. I think Torrey Craig could be an ideal replacement. He's not as big as Markieff, but he's a very good defender. He's a prototypical, I think, 3-and-D player, man. I think, he's a versatile wing that a lot of these playoff pushing teams or playoff contending teams would love to have on their roster. He's not, as big. Like I said, he's 6'7", 220 pounds. But apart from that, I think he'd be an amazing fit on this team. He can definitely shoot the ball. Although he hasn't really shot it above 40% from 3 for his whole career ever, he has the capability of shooting at least 35% from 3. Currently, he's shooting up, I think, 35 or 34% from 3, which is, again, not the best, but it's not terrible. And when you need a guy who can come in and replace Markieff Morris, I think that Torrey Craig is a perfect option for the Heat to go target. So they can also do this without going over the tax. And apart from that, I don't really know any other guys that the Heat could value in this market. Maybe on a rebuilding team, a team that can take on Morris's contract, Okpala's contract. Okpala's a young piece, so the Pacers might like him. But even a team like the Thunder, who really like their picks, if the Heat throw in a second, the Thunder might be willing to bite on a trade offer. I don't really know who the Thunder would give up. Maybe like a Kendrick Williams, but I just saw that the Thunder were wanting a first-round pick for him, so I don't think we will be able to get a Kendrick Williams. Derek Favors is another guy who doesn't really fit their timeline, but Derek Favors, like Ibaka, is a pure center, and he's worse than Ibaka for the Heat because he cannot stretch the floor whatsoever. So the options are pretty limited, if I'm not mistaken, as far as who the Heat can potentially trade Markieff and KZ for. But I think that's the trade to make. If there's anything in the deadline that the Heat can do, it is to try to figure out what they can do with Morris and Okpala, because from what we're hearing, it doesn't seem like Morris is going to be playing this season again. I hope I'm mistaken. I hope I'm wrong. But that report was very, very, it was a big blow, because when the Heat are very quiet about a player, which they have been about Morris until literally right now, and this didn't even come out from the Heat. This came out from Barry Jackson. When the Heat are very quiet about a player, it's not necessarily a good thing. We saw this happen with Justice Winslow. And this is very reminiscent to like the Chris Bosh thing, because Chris Bosh thought he was good to go, but the Heat, did not clear him. They said that, he was not ready, which was ultimately the good decision for Chris because he had blood clots and all that. The Avery Bradley situation, like there's been a lot of these guys, the times where the Heat, have been quiet about an injury, and it's ultimately because they know, or like they think they know, that the player is probably not going to come back anytime soon or for the whole season. So yeah, man, even the Victor Oladipo thing last year, I mean, we all knew that, you know, I mean, a lot of Heat fans thought that there was a chance that he might come back for the playoffs, but you know, ultimately broke out months later that he was not going to come back. So my hunch is that Morris will not come back. So, you know, that's why I'm kind of leaning towards trading him and trading Okpala. So yeah, and you know, it's another thing that Barry Jackson even said was that this neck injury for Markieff was not even just his first one, because he had suffered a neck injury when he was with the Washington Wizards. So yeah, man, this is not even just the first time that he's been injuring his neck. So this is not a good sign whatsoever. Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because he tweeted like he's back soon or whatnot, but he probably thought he was gonna get cleared. But yeah, it doesn't look like he's gonna be playing another game in the Heat uniform. If I'm not mistaken, or if I'm guessing, I don't know if he's gonna play another game in the Heat uniform. At least this season. You know, maybe if we keep him around, we can re-sign him next season. But I would try to trade him, and I would try to trade him with Okpala for us to get another guy like a Torrey Craig, who I mentioned, a Nicholas Batum, or get a guy in the buyout market, like a Thaddeus Young or someone like that who can play the power forward position next to Dwayne Dedmon in the bench role. So yeah, man, that's probably where we're gonna end the video. You know, credit to the Heat. The Heat, I think they have one of the best doctors slash, you know, the health professionals in the NBA. They know, you know, when to hold out a player. We know that from the Bosch situation that they're always going to put the player's health first, and hopefully Markieff gets back where he can play basketball, you know, where he can be cleared to play basketball, whether it's in a Heat uniform or not, because this is something you do not want to see. You know, it's never worth the risk to just throw out a player like that if you're not ready. So yeah, credit to the Heat and credit to you know, Barry Jackson for giving us the details about this situation, because this is a very serious situation. Hopefully Markieff gets better from this. It's still baffling to me that Jokic only got suspended for one game, but who cares? We're not even going to get into that. Yeah, hopefully Markieff gets better soon. Hopefully the Heat can find a trade scenario where they can trade Markieff, send him to a better situation, and try to get an asset in return who can play the power forward position. And we'll see what happens at the deadline. So hopefully y'all enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll see y'all later. As always, peace.